In the quiet reaches of space, there are worlds that never sleep. Oceans of cloud, storms that last for centuries, and light that bends before it ever reaches the ground. Tonight, we drift through one of them, a place where the air itself moves like water and the sky has no surface. Welcome to Vale. From a distance, Vale looks almost serene, a marble of soft colours turning slowly in the dim light of its sun. Amber, ivory, and pale blue ripple together across its surface, smooth as silk, hiding everything beneath. For a while, you could almost believe it's peaceful, a silent world wrapped in ribbons of cloud, drifting lazily through space. But as you draw closer, the illusion breaks. What seemed like calm becomes motion. The clouds aren't still, they're moving, folding, consuming each other in long looping currents that reach thousands of kilometers deep. It's not a world built on land or sea, but on flow, constant, ceaseless flow. The first thing you notice is the light. It changes with every layer, bending and scattering until it seems alive. Thin rays from the distant sun strike the upper atmosphere and split into soft bands of gold and violet, refracted through particles of ammonia ice and silicate dust. They glitter for a moment, then vanish again. Here one heartbeat, gone the next. Even up here, where the air is thin enough to see through, everything feels heavy. The movement of the gas below creates waves of pressure that ripple upward, brushing against your chest in slow, rhythmic pulses. It feels like the planet is breathing, though too slowly to match anything living. Below you, an ocean of cloud rolls endlessly, shifting in slow spirals. The upper layers look almost gentle, smooth sheets of pale cream and silver flowing across one another like silk curtains in a current. But watch long enough, and you'll see where those sheets fracture, where enormous bands of motion pull them apart, revealing the deeper storms beneath. The wind here never stops. It circles the planet at speeds that defy reason, hundreds of meters per second, yet it never tears itself apart. Each band moves in balance with the one beside it, like gears in a machine so vast it fills the sky. Occasionally, the air flashes with color, not lightning yet, but friction. Particles colliding at high speed, shedding sparks of blue-green light that drift away like fireflies. They vanish almost instantly, devoured by the atmosphere. And then the sound begins. Not a sound carried through the air, the pressure here is too strange for that, but a low physical vibration that hums through everything. It's deep enough to feel, rather than hear, like standing beside the engine of the world. Every few seconds it changes pitch slightly, then settles again. The whole planet seems to pulse with it. No one knows how deep the atmosphere goes. From this height, there's no sign of a surface, no land, no sea, just the endless folding of cloud upon cloud. Some theories say it continues for tens of thousands of kilometers before reaching a layer of metallic hydrogen. Others suggest it never truly ends, that the air simply becomes something else, denser, hotter, stranger, until it can no longer be called air at all. As you drift lower, the colors begin to shift. The upper haze thins, and the pale blue fades into deep ochre, then into grey. You pass through a layer of crystalline dust suspended in the wind, a frozen shimmer that catches light like broken glass. Each flake spins slowly, tumbling as it falls, and when lightning flickers below, they all light up at once. For a few seconds, the sky turns into a field of stars, glittering in every direction. The wind begins to rise. You can't feel temperature here in any ordinary way, but the motion has weight. Each gust pushes in waves, not sharp or violent, but immense, like being moved by the breath of something colossal and unseen. Then the light changes again. The sun, now far above and hidden by kilometers of cloud, diffuses into a gentle orange glow. It's the kind of light that doesn't come from a single source. It seems to be everywhere at once, shifting in tone as the particles around you scatter it. This is the top of the world's storm bands, the edge of its living skin. From here, the atmosphere divides into layers, each one thicker and darker than the last. Beneath this calm, pale sheet lies the true face of Vale, a convecting ocean of wind and fire that never rests. You can see hints of it now, flashes of deep emotion flickering through the haze. Massive eddies twist far below, wide enough to swallow continents, their edges faintly luminous where static builds and discharges in blue arcs. For a long time, nothing else happens. The clouds just move, endless, hypnotic, patient. And then, without warning, lightning splits the horizon. It isn't the kind of lightning you know. It doesn't flash downward or upward, but sideways, cutting through the clouds in long, silent ribbons of turquoise and silver. Each bolt travels for kilometers, lighting up whole valleys of air before fading into darkness again. You feel the charge ripple outward, trembling through the atmosphere like a low chord. Beneath that flash, the deeper clouds stir. Great walls of gas roll over one another, pushing towers of darker vapor upward, slow, heavy, deliberate. Within them, more lightning blooms, branching across the sky in spirals. It's chaos, but an organized chaos, held together by forces too vast to comprehend. You descend further into the first of the major storm belts. The air thickens until you can almost see its texture. Smooth where it's fast, rippled where it slows. You pass through alternating zones of pale and dark, each one moving in opposite directions, clashing at their borders in collisions of heat and colour. And somewhere far below, deeper than sight can reach, something stirs. You can't see it clearly, only shadows that shift within the darker bands. They move too slowly to be tricks of light. You could almost believe something enormous drifts beneath the storm tops, vast transparent shapes following the magnetic lines that weave through the planet's heart. The deeper you go, the more you feel it, a pattern in the chaos. Each gust, each pressure wave, each shift of tone seems to follow an unseen rhythm, the planet's pulse. It's not random, it's breathing. The hum returns, stronger now. It rises from below like a song made of air and gravity, too deep for melody, too slow for time. Every few minutes, it peaks, a low resonance that ripples through the atmosphere, then fades again, as though the planet itself were counting something. You begin to see flashes again, this time below the visible horizon. Lightning arcing between layers, illuminating pillars of dense gas that stretch for hundreds of kilometers. The light ripples outward through the haze, catching every particle, every drifting crystal, until the entire sky seems to shimmer with silent fire. It's almost peaceful. Even here, surrounded by violence and energy, there's no sense of danger, only scale. The storm doesn't rage, it moves with purpose, ancient and methodical, as if it's been doing this for 1,000 millennia and will continue long after the last of the light fades. You hover for a while, watching the endless current of gas moving beneath you, feeling the steady rhythm of the planet's breath. And as the light fades to deeper gold, the hum settles into silence again, not an ending, but a pause. Somewhere far below, another pulse begins and the descent continues. The air thickens until it moves more like water than wind. You can feel it in the way the light slows, bending around invisible currents, refracting into long ribbons that twist and stretch across the sky. Each motion lags slightly behind the one before, like the memory of a wave that never quite stops. The temperature rises, though not sharply, just a gentle warmth creeping through the haze. Pressure builds quietly, wrapping itself around you until every movement feels slower, heavier. The colours shift again, deepening from pale ochre to iron red, then into violet. Here, light becomes something softer, not illumination, but presence. The world has texture now. It folds and moves in great billowing structures, cloud mountains that rise and collapse over and over, their edges glowing faintly where electricity flows. Occasionally you catch a flash far below, but it's slower here, diffused by the thickness of the gas. The lightning crawls rather than strikes, wandering lazily across the cloud tops like veins of molten silver. And then in the middle of this dim stillness, the first signs of movement appear. Not the wind, something else. At first it's just a shimmer, a faint pulse of blue drifting through the mist. Then another. They move too smoothly to be turbulence, too deliberate to be random. You follow one with your eyes as it slides through the haze, leaving behind a faint trail of luminescence that fades after a few seconds. Then you see more, dozens, maybe hundreds, ghostly shapes weaving through the gas like enormous ribbons of light. They move as if swimming, undulating slowly in the currents. They're vast, some the size of cities, but weightless, made entirely of plasma membranes so thin they ripple with each passing wave. Each pulse through their bodies releases a soft blue light, and with every flicker, the surrounding air trembles. You realize they're feeding. Each time lightning flickers through the clouds, the creatures turn toward it, absorbing the energy. The light runs along their bodies in quick flashes before dimming again, as if it's being digested by the storm itself. They feed on charge. on the electrical breath of the planet, and around them smaller forms drift, clouds of pale golden specks no larger than leaves. At first you think they're dust, but they move with direction, swirling together in great spirals that drift through the haze. Every few seconds, one catches a spark and flares briefly, discharging a tiny pulse of static. They're like floating colonies, countless individuals moving in perfect rhythm, living on the faint electricity that flows between them. The planet's pulse hums again. This time it resonates through the creatures. Their lights flicker in sync with the vibration, as though the storm's heartbeat directs them. It's hard not to think of it as a kind of language, energy translating into motion, into response. The entire layer seems alive, a web of light and movement, each part tuned to the same invisible rhythm. Deeper still, you see great rivers of colour forming, wide, slow currents of glowing gas that stretch for thousands of kilometres. The air here is dense enough to bend the light until it runs like liquid. The rivers swirl with shimmering reds and deep greens, and when lightning passes through, they flare gold. The colours aren't just beautiful, they're clues. This is where metals in vapour form, sodium, copper, manganese, mix with the hydrogen winds, creating luminous bands that flow endlessly around the planet's circumference. They hum faintly, these rivers. Each one vibrates to the rhythm of the planet's magnetic field, resonating in tones just below hearing. Together, they form a slow, layered chord that fills the silence, a harmony of motion and light. The larger plasma creatures drift among them, gliding through the glowing currents as if drawn to their warmth. Sometimes two cross paths, and for a brief moment their bodies flash in perfect unison, an exchange of energy, maybe even communication. Then they separate again, leaving behind spirals of luminescent gas that curl like smoke. You can't shake the feeling that everything here is connected. Every flash, every hum, every movement seems part of a greater system, as if the planet itself orchestrates the flow of its own atmosphere. A living, breathing ecosystem made not of flesh and bone, but light and pressure. It's not silent anymore either. As the density increases, you begin to hear a low, constant vibration, a sound made by the movement of the air itself. It's not sharp or jarring, it's more like a deep, endless chord, steady and soothing, rising and falling so gradually you feel it more than you hear it. This is the true voice of Vale. Occasionally, the light from above breaks through in narrow beams. They reach only so far before scattering, but where they touch the glowing currents, the gas flares brilliantly. Bursts of turquoise and violet that bloom for a few seconds before fading back into the deep. For an instant, you can see shadows moving within the light, long, sinuous forms disappearing into the darker layers below. These shapes don't glow, they move differently, slower, more deliberate, gliding in arcs that cut through the rivers of gas. You can't tell how large they are. Distance is meaningless here, but as they pass, the air trembles and the smaller glowing organisms scatter. Perhaps they're drawn to the heat or the electrical charge. Perhaps they hunt. Or maybe they are simply part of the storm's machinery. Shapes formed from density and pressure, shifting endlessly in patterns older than life. Every few minutes, the air pulses again. You feel it in your chest before you hear it, a deep, resonant wave moving upward from somewhere below. The creatures respond instantly, their lights flickering in rhythm. Even the smaller colonies shift their spirals to match. It's like the entire atmosphere inhales and exhales together. And through it all, the light continues to fade. The orange glow from above turns faint, replaced by the dull red shimmer of heat rising from below. Lightning still flashes in the distance, but it's different now. Slower, thicker, each strike lasting several seconds, as if the storm is struggling to push against the wave its own air. In this slow, heavy place, time feels stretched. Seconds pass like minutes, minutes like hours. The world doesn't rush, it drifts. And in that drifting, everything feels suspended. Neither rising nor falling, just existing. You begin to sense the pull of gravity again, faint but undeniable. Something massive lies below, though still unseen. The air grows warmer, the pressure stronger, and the hum deepens, vibrating through your bones. The plasma creatures drift upward, fading into the haze. The smaller swarms scatter, and beneath their vanishing light, a new glow begins to rise. Dim at first, then stronger, burning with a dull, molten radiance. You've reached the threshold of the next layer. the place where gas begins to change, where friction turns air into fire. The storm's heart is below you now, waiting. And as the hum grows louder, the light thickens around you, swirling in slow, hypnotic spirals. The air no longer feels like air at all. It presses inward from every direction, dense enough to carry weight, heavy enough to bend sound. Even light struggles here. It doesn't shine. It seeps, thick, molten red and gold. Every particle glows faintly, not from reflection, but from friction itself. The wind moves in tides. It's slower now, immense, deliberate, rivers of atmosphere sliding past one another with the patience of continents. You can see the layers stacked above and below, each one a different tone of fire. They rise and fall in colossal waves, like colliding and merging, reshaping themselves again and again. The result is hypnotic, chaos with rhythm. Every so often, pressure pockets form, immense invisible bubbles that collapse with soundless force. Each one releases a bloom of light, rolling outward like the pulse of a star. For a moment, the entire sky shimmers as gases compress into liquid, then it all fades back to red. And then you notice it. The hum. It's been growing since you crossed the last layer. And now it's no longer a background vibration. It fills everything. It's not a sound you hear, but one you feel, deep, physical, resonant. It's the movement of the planet's heart, pulsing through the layers above. Somewhere below, hydrogen becomes metal. Under pressures so immense they defy imagination, atoms collapse inward, their electrons free to move like liquid. This is what gives the planet its field, its vast, invisible heartbeat that reaches into space. Every current you see, every flash of lightning above, is born here. You can see it happening, the forming and unforming of matter. Thin sheets of gas compress until they glow white, then burst apart again, releasing streaks of ionized metal that drift upward in slow spirals. Each flash births new particles, which rise like embers, cooling as they go. What you're watching isn't destruction, it's creation. The storm is making the material it needs to sustain itself. Every few minutes, lightning rips through the haze, not from sky to sky now, but inward. It dives down into the dense, glowing air, then bursts back upward, carrying fragments of energy with it. The bolts are enormous, looping across the horizon like glowing veins. Where they pass, the clouds shimmer and fold, and the air hums with static. The heat builds until the very motion of the air becomes visible. You can see pressure waves rolling through the gas, bending it into curved sheets that rise and break like waves on an unseen shore. Sometimes, for a heartbeat, the glow below sharpens, a sudden flare of brightness before fading again. It's as if something deep within the planet has stirred, briefly remembering itself. The light keeps shifting, now orange, now copper, now pale gold, as if the air is melting and reforming faster than you can follow. The metallic vapors, iron, sodium, magnesium, drift upward and condense into glittering rain. But the rain never falls, it evaporates before it can descend, dissolving into steam, joining the current again. It's a perfect cycle. Endless, balanced, eternal. And then through the red haze you see movement. Not the sweeping motion of storms, but something circular, vast and slow. It's a vortex, but not like any you've seen before. It doesn't spin wildly. It turns with purpose, measured and steady. A spiral that stretches for hundreds of kilometers, its core glowing white-hot at the center. You can feel it pulling. Even from a distance, the pressure shifts slightly, not violently but insistently, as though gravity itself is folding inward. Around the vortex, the air streams in ribbons, drawn into its motion. Every current, every wave of heat flows toward it, and every flicker of light bends along with it. You realize this must be the heart of the planet, the source of the hum. The rhythm grows stronger the closer you drift. Each pulse matches the turning of the vortex, as if the storm and the sound are one. Inside that spiral, lightning moves differently. It doesn't burst outward, but inward, folding into the core, feeding it. Each bolt is absorbed into the glowing center and never seen again. The effect is mesmerizing, energy drawn inward, endlessly consumed. For a moment, you wonder if this is what a heartbeat looks like when it's made of weather. The entire storm system seems to move in time with it, each surge of light from the vortex echoed by ripples of pressure radiating outward through the gas. It feels alive. Not sentient, but aware of itself, a vast, self-sustaining process that knows exactly what it's doing. The hum reaches its peak. Everything around you trembles, not violently but deeply, like the whole planet is exhaling. A wave of brighter light rolls outward from the vortex, pushing through the clouds. As it passes, the metallic rain flares silver and the hydrogen rivers glow blue. For a few minutes, the entire layer shines like molten glass. Then, just as quickly, it fades. The hum drops in pitch, softening until it's only a faint vibration again. The vortex slows slightly, and the air returns to its quiet, steady flow. You stay for a while, floating in that red, glowing stillness. It's warm here. Not burning, but heavy, like standing near the core of a great machine. You can feel the motion of the world around you, slow and certain. Every wave of pressure, every shift of light has purpose. It isn't chaos, it's design. And for the first time since entering the storm, you understand what you've been hearing all along. The hum isn't just the sound of wind and metal. It's the sound of balance. The planet holding itself together, remaking its energy, breathing its slow, endless breath. Above you, the deeper clouds begin to glow faintly blue again. The storm is changing, releasing the charge it built during its pulse. The cycle resets. Soon, this layer will rise, cooling as it goes, and new gases from below will take its place. You can already see the upward motion beginning. Columns of luminous vapor twist gently toward the higher layers, carrying fragments of heat and metallic dust. They look like slow-moving pillars of fire, vanishing into the red haze above. The pull of gravity eases slightly. You're beginning to rise with them. The hum fades, leaving behind only the faint whisper of pressure, soft, even, rhythmic. The storm's heart continues its work below, unseen but ever present. As the light shifts from red to gold again, you look down one last time. The vortex still turns, calm and steady, its center glowing with patient fire. You realize that nothing you've seen here truly ends. Every flash, every motion, every heartbeat, it all feeds the next. The forge continues, as it always has, and slowly you drift upward, back toward the lighter layers, toward the calm that waits above the storm. The climb begins without warning. One moment, you're surrounded by molten color, the air thick and humming. The next, the pressure loosens its grip. The currents change direction, drifting upward in long, spiraling waves that lift you with them. It's not fast. Nothing on this planet ever is. But the shift is certain, steady, patient, as if the world itself has decided it's time to breathe out again. The glow from below softens as you rise. The molten reds cool to amber, then to gold. Each layer you pass sheds a little more heat, a little more density, until light begins to move freely again. The hum from the forge below fades, replaced by a softer tone, a slow rhythmic vibration that feels almost like a lullaby. Around you, faint sparks drift upward, fragments of metal vapor glowing briefly before dissolving. They rise like embers, carried by warm currents that weave through the thicker air. Sometimes they collide, flashing silver before vanishing again. It's as if the planet itself is exhaling the remnants of its heartbeat, sending them upward into the calmer sky. Then comes the rain. Not water, but a glimmering fall of metallic mist, tiny droplets of iron and sodium condensing as they rise into cooler layers. They shimmer as they move, suspended in long vertical sheets that stretch for kilometers. Each droplet hums faintly with static, vibrating to the faint rhythm of the planet's pulse. When lightning flashes below, the rain flares white for an instant, illuminating the clouds like candlelight beneath silk. You pass through it slowly, each movement trailing ripples of light. The air here is cool enough to hold structure again, smoother, gentler, layered like soft fabric. For the first time since descending, you can see distance clearly. Above, the haze is thinning. The amber tones fade into pale blue, and the first hints of sunlight bleed through the mist. The world's great creatures, the ones of light and plasma, begin to return. You catch glimpses of them drifting through the mid-layers, immense translucent forms pulsing faintly as they feed on the returning charge. Their movement feels slower now, calmer, almost graceful. Each one glides through the metallic rain, leaving trails of glowing vapor in their wake. They don't venture higher than this. Perhaps this is their boundary, where heat and cold meet, where light is enough to live but not enough to burn. The smaller swarms are here too, swirling through the haze like fields of dust caught in a beam of light. They flash gold, then silver, then vanish again. Together they look like constellations suspended in air, the storm's own stars. The hum grows thinner, lighter, almost musical. You can feel the magnetic pull of the upper atmosphere now, that subtle rhythm stretching outward, connecting the world below to the vacuum above. Every so often it flares faintly, sending ripples of colour through the air. As you rise further, the light sharpens. The faint blue haze deepens into indigo, then fades into near clarity. The pressure drops with every kilometre until the air becomes thin, silent still. And suddenly, there it is, the edge of the storm. You emerge through the final layer like a diver breaking the surface of the sea. Below you, the clouds stretch endlessly in every direction, smooth, pale and calm. From here, it's impossible to believe what lies beneath, the rivers of fire, the endless storms, the heartbeat of creation. Up here, it's peaceful, a great ocean of cloud rolling in slow motion under the faint light of the sun. The auroras begin to appear again. They rise from the poles, faint ribbons of white and copper that shimmer across the horizon. They move differently here, slower, less erratic, guided by the planet's magnetic field. Each flicker of light from below sends a pulse through them, like the echoes of the hum carried upward into space. And above it all, silence. No sound, no wind, just the soft vibration of a world at equilibrium. You can see the planet's ring now, a thin band of glittering dust suspended high above the atmosphere. Every particle there was once part of the storm, fragments of vapor that rose too far, caught in orbit by the pull of the planet's field. They circle endlessly, shining faintly as they catch the sunlight, a permanent reminder of the storm's breath. You linger there, suspended between the light and the deep. The upper clouds move slowly beneath you, glowing faintly gold where the light touches them. Occasionally, a flash from below ripples upward, a reminder that the storm still breathes, still burns far beneath the calm surface. It's like hearing a heartbeat through a wall, distant, steady, familiar. Time stretches thin. There are no days here, no nights, only the slow shifting of light as the planet turns. Every few hours, the sun slides low, casting long shadows across the clouds. The colours change from gold to violet, from violet to grey, and then the faint light of distant stars begins to seep through the upper haze. From this height, the world glows softly against the black of space, a living sphere of motion and light, endlessly remaking itself. Each storm, each pulse, each layer, all part of a perfect, endless rhythm. You realise then that there was never truly an end to this journey, only a return. The planet continues just as it always has, breathing, turning, glowing beneath its veil. And in the silence above it all, you can still feel the hum, faint, deep, eternal. The storm sleeps, but it never dies. It waits for the next cycle, the next breath. You drift for a while longer, letting the rhythm settle. The auroras shimmer around you, and the first rays of dawn begin to sweep across the cloud tops, painting them silver. One last flash rises from below, a distant whisper of lightning, then fades into calm. Veil exhales again, quietly, peacefully. Its surface gleams like silk beneath the growing light. And as the hum fades into silence, you realise you've been listening not to chaos, but to balance. A planet forever alive in its own rhythm, breathing softly beneath the storm.